Today we're going to be talking about the perfect quarterback throwing motion. Now we're going to focus in this video solely on the upper body mechanics, then towards the end we're going to talk about how the lower body of the motion ties into the upper half. So first thing I want to talk about is ball carriage and where you should go with the ball on your take back. So a lot of old school quarterback coaches, I'm sure none of you probably do this, but if you do, this will be good information for you. You don't want to hold the ball up by your ear. A lot of old school coaches say hold the ball up by your ear so your elbow is up. You holding the ball up by your ear has nothing to do with your elbow being up. If you have a weak rotator cuff or flawed mechanics, as soon as you go back with the ball, your elbow is going to dip. So this has absolutely nothing to do with you keeping your elbow up. Absolutely zero. You want to hold the ball relaxed in the middle of your chest or just slightly on the right pec. I like it in the middle of the chest just because we're a relaxed, opposite equal position. Now, how do you want to take back the ball? A lot of coaches make their quarterbacks seem like robots. Like everybody's got to get to a perfect L. Nobody has to get to a perfect L. Find me one NFL quarterback who has the same exact motion as another. You can't, because they're all different and every single quarterback has different body types. You just need to get to some type of backstroke position. So if I'm throwing here, if my backstroke is there, that's cool. If I'm at the perfect L, that's fine. If I'm a little bit above that, that's cool. I just don't want to lift directly to 90 because your rotator cuff when you throw plays a huge role. Your rotator cuff is in your shoulder, obviously. So if you throw, like let's say your front foot gets down and you're in this L position, when you rotate through with your hips, your arm gets brought up to this 90-degree position because your hip rotation, and that's what gets your elbow up and gets you that nice classic 90-degree release. You want to be at that 90-degree at least release point, but you don't want to lift straight there. Because now if I lift straight there and my foot's down and then my hips rotate through, that causes me to pull the ball behind my head. Because again, your rotator cuff works in two parts. So guys, be relaxed with the ball carriage, and then when you go back, some type of backstroke position is where we got to be. Now also fellas, if you are a quarterback or wide receiver, we are going to be traveling out to 15 different cities for 2-day long QB and wide receiver training camps in 2025. So if you guys would like to train with us and my staff of coaches, check out that very first link in the description below. We're going to be coming out to San Francisco, California, Orlando, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona, Charlotte, North Carolina, Austin, Texas, Chicago, Illinois, Seattle, Washington, Las Vegas, Nevada, Newark, New Jersey, Birmingham, Alabama, Houston, Texas, Boston, Massachusetts, Columbus, Ohio, Boise, Idaho, and Los Angeles, California. So again, guys, if you want some more information, how you could sign up, check out that very first link in the description below. Now, let's talk about the arm slot when you release the ball, because there's a ton of information out there on social media, you guys, about a lot of people saying that, oh, you want to have this like low arm slot. Now, the argument for the low arm slot is that it will help you get to extension faster. Now, that may be true, whatever. I just don't think a lot of athletes should try to get to the low arm slot because there's many different arm slots that you could have as a quarterback. Like, yeah, if I'm in the pocket and I got a guy in my face and there's a drag coming around and I change up my arm slot to throw this thing around him, cool. If I got to throw like a regular dig over the middle, why do I need a lower arm slot, guys? You can get to the same extension point being up here. Now, the mistake that a lot of quarterbacks make is they hear this sidearm info, and what they will do is that they will not neglect saying, like a lot of people that teach the whole sidearm stuff, I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say, but a lot of people that teach the whole sidearm stuff will have this front shoulder. They completely neglect talking about the front side in your release. So they'll throw, and the quarterbacks, you'll literally see it, they're opening way up and they're trying to throw sidearm and they're releasing the ball like this, and their arms coming across. They never actually get to extension because their arms ripping across their body. So guys, if you're gonna change up the arm slot, you gotta be super disciplined with your front side. When you throw, your front shoulder should stay still, hands should be by your face, and you should keep your shoulders parallel to the target. If your release point's here, you're fine. If your release point's here, you're cool. As long as we're stable up top and we could actually extend to the target. I really could care less where that is, but there are times where you gotta change it up. But if I'm throwing with touch, how the hell am I gonna throw a touch like this? I gotta actually snap up and over the top. So there's many different arm slots, you guys. Be more focused on your sequence. Be more focused on the timing of your hip rotation, weight transfer, your legs tying into your upper half, and where you go back with that football in your ball carriage. And we're gonna get into the legs, obviously, towards the end of this clip. Now let's talk about your release point, right? We talked about arm slots, and the argument that a lot of people have on that lower arm slot is it helps you get to extension faster, right? So what is exactly extension? Extension is something you want on every throw. Whether it's a 5-yard check down, whether it's a deep fade, you never want to release the ball where your elbow is bending, your wrist is here. You want to have your wrist and your hand, that wrist flick, to be almost 6 inches in front of your front foot. That's the magic spot, right? So when I release the ball, I don't want to be here. I don't want to short arm. I don't want to be coming down here like this, like straight away, I want to extend, like let's say I'm throwing to the camera right now, I want my wrist, elbow, and shoulder in a straight line as I'm flicking my wrist to the target to help with that consistent accuracy on the ball, but also that will help your ball get a consistent spin. Now let's talk about how the lower body sets up your upper body in your throwing motion. I think this is what's most important about a throwing motion, because remember guys, quarterbacks are not robots. You watching this if you're a quarterback, you're not a robot, guys. You have a different body type from the quarterbacks on your team. You have a different body type from the quarterbacks across the country. Everybody is their own human, therefore they move their own unique way. We have to try to be as efficient as possible in our own unique way of moving. That's at least my philosophy on quarterback play, right? So where everybody should be somewhat similar is timing and the sequence of when their hips and their weight transfer through in the throw. So that ties into your upper body mechanics, and I'll talk about that. So what was the first thing we mentioned? Holding the ball in the middle of your chest. The reason why I like it in the middle of the chest is you're relaxed, but when you get to that backstroke position, remember, it doesn't need to be a perfect L, just somewhere in this range. Just not low, because I feel like that takes a while, and not straight up, somewhere in this range. When you get to there, your front shoulder has to rotate back, because when your shoulder is back and you're in that backstroke position like this, your front foot needs to be down. When your front foot's down and you're here, that's a position called dissociation. Your upper body is separate from your lower body. That's what we got to focus on. That's the timing. When your foot strike is down, it should time up with your shoulders being back. Now, your shoulders can't get back unless you keep weight on your back leg. A lot of guys, they try to go back with their shoulders, but when they throw, their shin, their knee will cave forward because they're trying to drive with their hips and they can't stay back. So this opens, they lean, this release point is flawed. Again, a lot of guys who have a flawed lower half will listen to people who only talk about arm slots, and the problem is that if your lower half's flawed and you're trying to be sidearm and trying to look cool, then your arm's gonna come across your frame and you're not gonna have any consistency on the ball. It starts from the ground up, you guys. So when we're at my base and my weight's back, I wanna keep it there. I stride, I keep it there. I go back, I get to that backstroke position, so now the hips rotate through before the shoulders do. That's what brings your arm up to that 90 that we talked about. And now since your hips are doing the work, your shoulder doesn't have to rip open. So you can stay more stable, shoulders can stay level, hand up by your face, and guess what we could do? We could snap and extend, whether I have a lower natural arm slot, a higher arm slot, or a more classic arm slot. But remember guys, the sequence of events is what matters. So to recap, your weight's gotta be back. You stride to the target, we keep it back. Keep the shin straight for just a split second so I could actually delay with the shoulders, get to the backstroke position where my shoulder is separate from my lower half, called dissociation, and then my hips rip this through, which gives me more power on the ball, takes pressure off my arm, and it makes me more consistent because I don't need to lean and flaw my release.